Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to our channel, Red Bull Coffee and Crime. It is me and Garnett this morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you doing?
I'm doing okay, The holiday season is over. We're getting ready for the new year, so I'm doing pretty good.
Thank God Christmas is over.
Yeah, that's one of my least favorite holidays as well.
hmm
It's so commercialized, and you end up buying a bunch of stuff that you really don't need and don't have a place for. So.
Yeah, my kids already broke like 3 toys, and I'm just like, why? Why? What is the point? Hey, back
Because they're kids.
pimps. We appreciate you coming. Hope you're having a good morning. You know what I just noticed? That I'm starting with our CPS failure number 6. So I timed them backwards, but
They can put them together.
so you guys, today we are going to be speaking about Emani Moss. A I think it was Bash the Tragedy Pimps that recommended this one, and it is a horrible, horrible tragedy, just like all the other ones. I mean, I can't imagine what this little girl went through. It was supposed to, her case changed some of the laws in Georgia, but it doesn't. I don't know if it really helped at all. Might have. Um, so Emani Gabriel Moss, she was born April 23rd, 2003. She was the um, she was one of 5 children. So she had 4 other siblings, but shortly after Amani's birth, her mother, who was addicted to drugs, surrendered her parental rights. And Amani's father, which was Eamon, I guess they were named kind of after each other. I don't know if that. Oh, Aman. So Aman gained sole custody of Imani, um, and her mother also surrendered her parental rights to all the other children. Um, Aman was charged with and convicted of battery and second-degree child cruelty in 2004 after beating Amani's biological mother in front of her. Um, Aman largely raised Amani and often took her to Freedom Christian Church, and there he met Tiffany Moss, who was a preschool teacher. Aman and Tiffany married July 2009. They had 2 children, a son and a daughter. um, and I just want to, there's no records indicating that Tiffany abused her biological children. She did abuse Amani. The abuse increased in March 2010 after a beating of Amani caused Moss to lose her job. So the nurse had saw bruises, they saw welts, they saw just marks on her body, and At that age, Amani was 6, and she told the school nurse that she feared going home with a bad report card because she was worried her parents would hurt her. She also told the nurse that her stepmother had spanked her with a curtain rod. The nurse then found That's when she found all the scabs, the bruises, the welts. It was all over Amani's arms, back, chest, legs, shoulders, and she was taken to the police headquarters. That was when Tiffany was arrested, and she was actually charged with first degree child cruelty. Tiffany admitted to hitting Amani 3 times after she failed to do her homework. She lost her job, she ended up pleading guilty, and she was sentenced to 5 years of probation as part of Georgia's first offender program. The Georgia Division of Family and Child Services, which, DFACS, signed the plea deal. The DFACS dismissed a case against Tiffany and Iman after they completed parenting classes. So while that was happening, after the March 2010 beating, Amani was taken from them and placed with her grandmother, Robin. She stayed with her for about 6 months, and during this time, her Amani's school performance improved. She was getting better grades. She was gaining what weight. She was just thriving. Um, Iman then fought for custody of Amani, and in fall of 2010, DFACS returned her to him and Tiffany. Robin fought, which is the grandmother, to retain custody of the granddaughter. She suspected Amani was being abused, and she could not persuade authorities to give her custody. Prosecutors later argued at trial that in March 2010, the abuse incident launched an escalating cycle of more abuse that ultimately resulted in Amani's death. Because Moss had pleaded guilty to beating Amani, she was no longer allowed to teach preschool. This made her resent Amani as she blamed her for the job loss. So Moss continued to abuse Amani for the next several years. In June 2012, Amani twice tried to run away from home. There was one case where she went to the apartment office and she told them she wanted to run away because Moss, which is Tiffany, tied her up with a belt and placed her in a cold shower. The police responded and were told by Tiffany that Imani was not telling the truth. And because there was not enough evidence to charge anyone, guess what happened? Imani was
They
returned.
just left her there.
Yeah. The other incident was July 2012 when Imani ran away. She was found sleeping in bushes of a nearby apartment complex by a police officer. Imani told the officer that she ran away because her stepmother was mean to her. The officer reported the event to DFACS and filed a runaway and curfew violation charges against Imani to ensure she would see a juvenile court judge.
So I'm getting this right. You're saying this happened in 2012?
Yeah.
So she's like 9 years old.
Yeah, because in 2010 she was, yeah, well, seven,
Well,
eight.
she was born in 2003.
Mm-hmm.
So 8, 9, older 8,
Yeah.
early 9. All right.
So, I guess, I don't know. I don't understand why the police officer did that. Did he really just want to make sure she was seen by someone? Like, was it, I mean, why did he charge her with this? I mean, I don't know. It confuses me. Um, ugh. So from 2011 to the summer of 2013, the Moss family, they moved around Sometimes they were living with family. Aman, who worked long hours, did not see his daughter often. And when he did see her, which was the weekends, he said that she would eat fine. Like he was in charge of watching the kids on the weekends. That was his time, and she would always eat. Um, so they ended up, when they finally found a place, they ended up living on their own, and that's when Amani rarely saw any kind of family. But before that happened, well, no, in May 2013, the Mosses visited Amani's sister Sharnice's house for Mother's Day. Sharnice and Robin noticed that Amani's hair had been cut. And when Robin confronted Tiffany about this, Tiffany reportedly said, "If you act ugly, you should look ugly." Sharnice also noticed that Amani acted more timidly. After the 2012 to 2013 school year ended, Aman and Moss announced that they would pull Amani from public school and homeschool her. The sister and the grandma objected to the idea, and they called DFACS once again, asking them to intervene. Still, they declined. On August 6, 2013, DFACS received an anonymous tip that Amani was being neglected by her father and stepmother and appeared to be thin. According to a lawsuit against DFACS filed by Robin, which is the grandmother, DFACS did not visit the home and did not conduct a follow up due to having no current address and no current maltreatment. So they just didn't follow up because they didn't have a correct address. I mean, why does that happen so often? People just run and they
Too
just,
much, too many times is just the same. I mean, you
hey,
know,
how are you? What were you saying, Grenade?
6 years ago, when I started going through Orion's case, I would have thought that he was the only child that they received calls on and just walked away. But today, almost all of these cases have the same things. The kids are saying, "I've been beat. My home life is not good." They're running away. At 9 years old, if a child is running away, why is that not taken more seriously? We give the child charges at 9.
Right?
Um, uh, I had a 14-year-old that ran away constantly, and I was always the one that got charged. She was 14, and I physically was told to sleep in front of doors and stuff because it was my responsibility.
Oh my God.
So how does this happen that a 9-year-old is running away and she got charges out of it and returned back to the people where she's saying, they're beating me, they're hurting me, this is not good.
Exactly. That would be the point where you would say, okay, I'm taking her in and we're taking her out of the household. We're doing something else. We're not going to just return her to this place because a 9-year old is not just going to run away just because. Um, and you're right. That's when homeschooling starts. That's basically the end for an abused child. That's how I feel as well. It just gets worse and worse. And over COVID, I was so scared, like every day, thinking, about all these poor kids having to be homeschooled because of COVID, and were they the ones that were being abused. Um, have
I just want to cut in here a minute. That's what I was trying to do, and of course, I had to back out. I wanted to respond to Harley Rain. What a beautiful name. Um,
Aw,
she
Harley.
She says, I have seen that in many cases when the schools get involved, then the child gets pulled out and homeschooled. Now, I am a firm believer in homeschooling for some children, but if you are having issues in the school, with child abuse and stuff, they shouldn't be able to just yank them out. And if they do, there should be something like they have to go to every 3 month doctor visits or something so these children are seen.
That would be actually the smart thing to do. If a child, like just like in the case we did with Dakota Collins,
Hmm.
he was being abused very badly, and his father just pulled him out of school. That shouldn't have been allowed.
And pulled him out after having many complaints from the school about this child's physical condition.
Mm-hmm.
And that should be a huge warning sign. And they're definitely, like I said, I'm a huge supporter of homeschooling, and for some families that is absolutely the best thing that could happen. But I also feel like, okay, if you're going to homeschool, we still need to see these children. Either you have to organize some sort of play dates that they must attend, or you have to see a doctor every 3 months. These are the things that need to be changed in the system.
Yeah, exactly. Um, so Mother's Day, which was the May 12th, 2013, that was the last time that any members of Amani's family, besides her father, stepmother, and siblings, saw her alive. In the late summer of 2013, Aman, Tiffany, their children, and Amani moved into an apartment in Lawrenceville, Georgia. And before I moved back to California, that was an area that I lived in and was very, very close to where this happened. And I would have had, I mean, I didn't know them, but it's scary to think that it was right, you know, it could be your neighbor.
Right, and that you were right there and had no idea this child was suffering
Exactly.
when there were so many people around that knew
Yeah.
or that should have known.
Um, so according to District Attorney Danny Porter, this was when, for all intents and purposes, Amani vanished from the face of the earth. During this time, Aman worked two jobs, making him largely absent from Amani's life. He would leave for his first job in the early morning, briefly return in the late afternoon, and leave for his second job around 6 p.m. before finally returning home around 10:30 or 11. Um, while
I just want to cut in there because I know where this is going to go. But okay, as parents, if you're working all these hours, and you haven't seen your child, wouldn't you say to the step parent, "Hey, you know what? I haven't seen my child for a few days. I need them to be here at this time when I get home so I can at least see their little faces."
Oh no, this man is just as evil as her. He can't get away with, oh, I didn't know anything. Like, he
You can
tried.
go ahead. You know me. I have to
No,
interrupt you
I
all
know
the
what
time.
you're saying, but I know what you're saying, but he did try that, but no,
Right,
it's
right. There's no way. You want to,
yeah.
no,
And
no.
neighbors even said that they had no idea that Amani was living there. They only saw two children.
So
So
the neighbors never see that.
yeah. Um So Tiffany was left to care for the children when he was at work. Um, at some point, Tiffany began to starve Amani. Um, the starvation likely lasted several weeks. During this time, Amani was confined to her bedroom. And see my notes, I already said that. Neighbors, they only saw Moss's biological children and did not even know that they had an older sister. Um, Amani eventually began too weak to move. She couldn't even leave her bed, urinate, or she couldn't go to the bathroom. Um, though Tiffany denied food to Amani, she did take care of and feed her two biological children. On several occasions, she sent Aman pictures of meals she had prepared for her children. And in another instance, she asked her husband to bring cookie dough so she could bake. Just imagine Amani in her room, laying there, starving. She can't move, and she's smelling these cookies that this evil monster is baking. And
Yeah.
oh
Yeah.
my god, oh my god. A medical examiner who testified at trial actually said the process of starving to death would have been very painful. At first, Amani would have experienced hunger pains. She then would have become fatigued and she would continue losing energy and weight until she ultimately died. And this is the worst kind of abuse to me for a child is starvation. I these cases where these children go hungry kill me.
Yeah.
I
Yeah. Especially when you're baking fucking cookies in the kitchen.
yeah, and you smell, the cookies, they smell up the house. They um let me look at some comments. Sorry guys, if I usually respond, but I'm reading my notes. The bottom line is CPS does not do their job. I am dealing with a case now with my sister and nothing is being done at all. They think it's a joke. Harley, what is going if you have an email and if we can help in any way, please let us know. Um, if they have CPS case, they should be very strict rules to pulling them out of school. Exactly. There should be very strict rules of pulling them out of school to homeschool them. Starving a child is beyond. It is because I can imagine. I've been hungry as an adult sometimes, and children, I just can't. I I can't. I will starve before my kids ever starved ever.
Yeah.
Um,
Lack of food and general heat and necessities, it to me is just heartbreaking in every situation.
yeah. Um, so sometime October 24th, Amani suffered with what Iman believed was a seizure. His wife messaged him and said, "Come home. There's something wrong with Amani." So when he got there, he went into the bathroom and found his daughter in the bathtub shaking. Amani was unresponsive and her eyes were rolling back and forth. Aman moved Amani to her bed where she stayed for the next couple days. And Aman visited her during this time and tried to feed her but was unsuccessful. So this dad could have got her help right there, but didn't. He didn't call an ambulance. He didn't call 911. He didn't do anything. He put
Right.
her
Right.
back to her bed.
Uh,
Yeah.
I can't. I just can't. I'm sorry. It's
So,
after this series, we all need a mental health break.
right, because it's a lot. Um, Amani died October 28th, 2013, and by the time She died. She was severely underweight. She weighed 32 pounds, which is the average of a weight of a 3-year old. And she was 10 at this time. 32 pounds, Garnet.
I can't. My grandson is just turned 5 the other day, and he weighs 46 pounds. How?
Uh, It's, hold on. There's my email. Oh, I didn't put the dot, but yeah, it's .com. If you want to send an email, I need to put it in the about section. But we're going to make an email where me and Garnett can both access, and we need to put that in our about area, Garnett. Um, so yeah, 32 pounds, skin and bones. Um, in the autopsy, her organs were found to be very small. And this is how, so on the 28th, Tiffany called Iman at work to tell him that Emani was dead. So Iman went home. Of course, he went home. He walked into the house. The family seemed to be acting normal. The children were playing around. Tiffany was watching TV. Like nothing happened. He found his daughter lying in a blanket on her bedroom floor. He told his wife they should call the police, but she said they could not because she would lose their children. Moss, Tiffany, then told Aman they needed to hide Amani's body and be on our criminal mind. Iman wrapped Amani's body with blankets and moved her to the computer room where she was kept for several days. Um, Aman would go to work, and then when he got home, he would actually go and like hold her, and that was his grieving. He was spending time with Amani's body, grieving. Um, so when they decided they could not keep her body there anymore, they agreed to cover up the death. So the day after Amani's death, Tiffany actually went to Anna's Linens and bought new sheets and new coverall, as the ones Amani had used were covered with urine and lots of other stuff. Moss Tiffany suggested burying Amani and reporting her as a runaway. Iman then went to Walmart and bought a a galvanized trash can, trash bags, charcoal and lighter fluid. And on Halloween, Moss and Aman decided to put Amani's body in the trash can and burn it. When they tried to place her in the trash can, they found that she was stiff with rigor mortis and used duct tape to compress her body. Aman covered her with a comforter. The Mosses then stuffed Amani's body in the trash bag. In the early morning of November 1st, the Moss couple put the trash can containing Amani's body in the back of their car. They placed their 2 children in the car to go find a secluded location to burn his daughter's body. So once they drove around for
Wait
hours,
a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute. So they took the 2 babies with them?
yeah, yeah. Once they drove around, they found a secluded location. They removed the trash can with Amani's body in it from the vehicle. They added charcoal to the bottom of the can, doused Amani's body with lighter fluid, and set it on fire. But as the couple watched the body burn, they found it would not burn to ash after about 5 minutes. They then extinguished the fire, and then they took the trash can and Amani's body back to the apartment.
Oh,
The day
oh.
after, yeah, it's
Could you imagine the smell? Now
uh,
you got these babies in the car. I just don't know what could be going through a person's mind. Why would you do that?
eh,
How could you do that?
these
I'm
are
sorry.
evil, evil monsters. Um, so the day after they attempted to do this and they failed, Aman went to work with Amani's body still in the back of his car. He then confesses to a friend about the crime and, told him everything. The friend urged him to call the police. Like, this friend didn't even call the police. I would have called the police in a second. I mean, a child, oh my God, I can't. So
No.
Iman thought about it. And after going home from his second job, he decided then to contact the police. At 4 a.m., he made the call saying he was suicidal. Iman informed Tiffany about his call to the police. Um, and her learning that the police had been called, Tiffany placed the trash can with Amani's remains in a grassy area at the apartment and fled in the family vehicle with her children. Upon arrival at the apartment, the police were told by Aman that Amani identifying wait that Amani had drunk chemicals and died. He claimed that he had panicked, put her body in a trash can outside the apartment, and tried to cremate it. Police found the body and did not believe Aman's story, quickly identifying him and his wife as suspects. Aman was arrested almost immediately. Moss dropped her children off at her mother's house and turned herself in. Aman ultimately confessed to covering up Amani's murder by reporting her as a runaway and trying to burn her body. In 2015, he pled guilty to felony murder and concealing a death. He was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. In exchange, he agreed to testify against Tiffany, who actually rejected a plea deal that would have allowed her to be sentenced in life in prison. So Moss's case went to trial and it began April 15th, 2019. And the jury consisted of 6 men, 6 women. Moss, who was appointed lawyers through the state, she decided she wanted to represent herself, despite the judge's effort to persuade her otherwise. Instead of representing her, her defense attorneys served as standby attorneys to answer any legal questions during pretrial hearings and jury selection. Um, so during this trial, Tiffany did not give an opening statement. She did not cross-examine any witnesses or even give a closing argument. Um, there was 18 witnesses that were called, including Amani's aunt, grandmother, and fourth grade teacher. They also called Aman and Dr. Staffenberg, who was the medical examiner who performed the autopsy. Um, and she said that she was giving it was all to God, basically. Like, she was giving this all to God. That's why she didn't want to make any statements or whatever. I don't know. Um, On April 29th, Moss was convicted on all 6 counts, including 1 count of malice murder, 2 counts of felony murder, 2 counts of cruelty to children, and 1 count of concealing a death. The jury deliberated for less than 3 hours. During the sentencing phase, Moss declined to address the jury. um, or have her relatives who had attended the trial testify on her behalf. She also refused to make a closing statement. In the state's closing argument, Porter argued that Moss did not deserve a life sentence, whether it be a life sentence with parole or a life without parole sentence. She should not be given the opportunity to be released, he argued, because she would never change. She's shown you too much of her capacity for cruelty. There will always be the dark side waiting to come out. He also argued that for Moss, life without parole would not be a worse sentence than the death because she did not regret her crimes and would never be bothered by them. The jury began deliberating. After the first day, they appeared conflicted and were told by the judge to go home and sleep on it. They continued deliberations the next day and ultimately agreed on the death penalty. So sentencing occurred on May 1st. The judge agreed with the jury's recommendation and sentenced Moss, then age 36, to death by lethal injection. Moss was the first person to be sentenced to death in Georgia over 5 years. Judge Hutchinson scheduled her execution for between June 7th and 14th, 2019. Porter said of the death sentence, "There's no joy when a jury imposes a death sentence, but this is one of the worst cases I've ever seen. The first time you look at it, it makes you sick. The last time you look at it, it makes you sick." The execution did not occur during June 7th through the 14th, the time frame due to the appeals process, which resulted in an automatic stay of execution being applied in the initial scheduled execution date. She is currently incarcerated at Arendelle State Prison and is Georgia's only female death row inmate. If Moss is eventually executed, she will be the third woman in Georgia to be executed since 1945. Now, there's an appeal. Despite representing herself at trial, Moss accepted legal representation in her appeal. Soon after she was sentenced to death, the Georgia Capital Defender Group filed a motion asking for a new trial, arguing, among other things, that Moss was not competent, com, competent to act as her attorney. According to attorneys, Moss has psychological testing data that showed the defendant to have damage to the premotor and prefrontal regions of the brain. A status hearing regarding the motion was held on August 23rd, 2019. Um, so that's all we know for now. Iman and Moss, who remain married, they lost custody, of course, of their two children. After Emani's murder, the children were sent to live with foster parents. The Moss couple, along with both Tiffany and Aman's mother, tried to gain custody. In 2019, Porter told local news that the children were adopted by the foster parents. The couple's son, who was 3 years old, watching all this happen and was driving around in the car when they were trying to find a secluded area to burn her body. He reportedly has some memories of the crime. However, according to Porter, at the time of the interview in April 2019, the children are doing great and they're in therapy. And so this case, Emani's case, it's ended up having it was a criticism of the systemic changes in Georgia's child welfare system. After the murder, an intake case manager, a social service admin, and a program assistant at the DFACS were all terminated. Others were reportedly disciplined. The murder led the department to enact reforms, including deeper investigations into allegations of abuse and changing how it assembles maltreatment reports. New case managers and supervisors were hired, reducing caseloads. Agency workers no longer decide whether reports warrant investigations based entirely on information gathered over the telephone. Additionally, no case is assigned a less serious, lower priority status until a caseworker meets a child who allegedly has been abused. After Amani's death, along with several other abuse related deaths, the Child Welfare Reform Council was um, commissioned by Governor Nathan Deal. In January 2015, the council released a report with recommendations on ways to improve Georgia child welfare system. In 2018, Amani's grandmother, Robin, filed a lawsuit in the Gwinnett County State Court against DFACS, arguing that caseworkers were aware of the conditions and abuse in the Moss family and could have acted earlier. Robin is also suing the Department of Human Services. She is seeking a jury trial and reasonable um, compen- well, why can't I read? Compensatory damages. According to the lawsuit, there are multiple occasions where the department could have investigated the Moss household and intervened on behalf of Amani. As a result of the negligent, help me out here, negligence of DFACS and its agents, Amani suffered constant abuse and deprivation from 2008 until her death. So that is the case of Emani Moss. And I'm not sure. I think the lawsuit is still going, if I am not mistaken. If anyone knows. Hey, Noetic Justice, thank you.
I will definitely look that up and because um this is another one that should never get out of jail.
Well, hold on. Amani grandmother lawsuit. I think she ended up winning. I'm not sure.
Well, the money doesn't do much, but making sure that this woman never gets an appeal, never gets out on appeal.
Well, no, I doubt she's gonna do that. I doubt that that's gonna happen. But I was wanting to know she did win that, and I really doubt this woman is gonna get out. I mean, she murdered a child, and there's nothing wrong with her. Like, there's nothing wrong with her where she couldn't, she knew what she was doing.
Oh, you're not. I agree 100%.
Obviously, the changes made in Georgia over this case. Yeah, that's what I was saying in the beginning. Like, I don't really think it made a difference, because there's so many cases, just like Quentin. This poor child never never got to live a good life. And just like, Adrian's case and all the other cases, we see these children get sent to their grandmothers. Hold on. Oh, is that your TV, Garnet?
Oh, sorry.
Just like, a lot of kids we see go to family members and they thrive and they succeed and they are living happy, and then they just get ripped out of their homes back into these monsters' hands. I do not get it. I can't. Ugh. Garnett, okay, I'm done. I'm done. You can come back.
I'm back. Yeah, it's too much, and the signs, the warning signs, so many of them are the same. Um, it's definitely a break in the system, and bringing awareness, making sure we try to get some of this changed. It has to be.
Tennessee isn't much wetter. Summer Wells should have been root. Wasn't Summer Wells, CPS was involved a few times as well, right? But you guys, we do have more episodes today. Garnett, if you guys are new to the channel, Garnett, you want to speak a little about Orion, because we are going to do his case again.
When am I doing that?
Look, you guys, I just make the times and I tell them. Let me see. Wait, I don't know if it is today. Because if it is today, I was going to ask you. Oh, yeah, it's at 1:25.
Oh my. Okay.
So, or we
Go
could
ahead.
just wait, until we do the show. But Garnett has been something through her family has been through something similar. Her grandson was murdered by evil monsters. So we are gonna
He
go.
was murdered by his uncle.
Oh, I don't even want to call
Um,
him his uncle. Oh,
it's definitely a thing. We may have to postpone his till this evening because I need to dig out those papers and I don't know.
well, I'll switch him for the Ethan Hochschild,
Okay. All right.
and then you just tell me what's a good time for Orion.
Okay.
All right, you guys. Well, please give these videos a like. Um, Share them. This is what we're gonna be kind of doing for a while, um, until we at least do our, our nationwide CPS. What is it, Garnett? Like a protest?
It's a protest. We're trying to uh, you know, show the breakdown in the system, try to change some laws. I don't know where this is going to take us, but we're going to at least make some noise, let them know, show them these babies that have passed away because of their failures. Um, how does this continue to happen with the same warning signs? Why are we not learning anything? So, Thomas, Arctic Fox is working on that. We are going to get the details together and we will definitely be updating everybody with that really soon.
Yes. So we appreciate all of your support. Um, we hope that you guys stay. I'm gonna go change the times, but in like an hour, I think we're gonna do the other one that you guys recommended.
Yes.
Um, which was Ethan. I can't say his last name. Ethan Hochschultz. And
All
then
right, let's.
oh, okay. And then we have a few
I
But we hope to see you guys later. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Everybody have a safe day. And remember, if you see something, say something. Nothing's too small.
All
I
right.
love
Good
you.
night, guys. Or, yeah,
Good
good night.
night. Girl, you need
We
some
will,
caffeine.
I know. We will talk to you all soon.
Yes. Bye. Bye, Harley. It was great to see you guys. Thank you, Noetic Justice, for stopping by. Thank you, Harley. Thank Bash, the Tragedy Pimps. We appreciate you all. We hope to see you in about an hour for our next case. And remember the thread that I wrote in the community tabs. Please drop down any other CPS failures that, you know, their stories need to be told. And we hope to see you soon. Thank you.